Good evening, everyone. My name is Ken Howard, and as Director of the North Carolina Museum of History, it is my pleasure to welcome you to tonight's Yuletide by the Seaside. The North Carolina Museum of History Associates and the staff here at the museum want to wish you a very happy holiday and thank you for joining us for tonight's program. We've got some great things going on this evening. We have the world-famous Ira David Wood III with us tonight to talk to us a little bit and do some of his program. And as part of our beach music exhibit, you're going to learn how to shag the correct way from two very talented shag dancers. As members of the museum, your support helps us build our exhibits, do our programs and our festivals. We couldn't do all these things without your support. So thank you for being a member of the museum. And if you're watching tonight and are not a member, well then you need to join, because we always need everyone's support here at your North Carolina Museum of History. So thank you again for joining us tonight. And again, on behalf of the Museum of History Associates and the staff of the museum, we want to wish you a very happy holiday season. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the world-renowned Ira David Wood III, who's got a great program for us tonight.
Well, hello everybody, Ira David Wood here. Thank you all for joining me tonight. I'm going to just reminisce a bit about a show that I annually participate in, A Christmas Carol. This year, 2020, oh, what a year, would mark the 47th consecutive year of performance for us. Well, obviously, COVID-19 has changed a lot of that. So this year, we won't be producing a live performance. We will, however, be producing a streaming performance. We'll be streaming last year's show, which was filmed at the Durham Performing Arts Center for the entire month of December. So you can see it in the comfort and safety of your own home. I started the show when I was 27 years old. In 1974, that's when we premiered it. And I'm 73 now. So we've been playing that production for a long time. Ebenezer Scrooge has become like an old friend to me. And every year, it's interesting to find out how much he's grown. Now, the year we opened the show, we had done a series of Shakespearean plays. Romeo and Juliet. We had done Taming of the Shrew. And when we got to the Christmas season, we of course realized that William Shakespeare had not penned a Christmas play. So we decided to go to the next best English author, which in my opinion was Charles Dickens. We decided that we would do an original version of A Christmas Carol. Now what you have to remember about 1974, other than the fact that Gerald Ford was president and he fell down an awful lot, we'd just come out of Watergate. And all of the theaters in Raleigh were closed during the holidays. Some of you may not remember back that far, but it's true. And I thought that was so strange and that theaters were missing an incredible opportunity. I knew that over the holidays, families wanted to do things together. And I thought it was only natural that the theaters open their doors and invite audiences in for Christmas productions. So that's what we did. Terry Mann, J.K. Farrell, and I went to work on a script. Deanne Jones was our typist. And we told Deanne to take as much of the dialogue as possible right out of the novel. I think people would be surprised at how much in the show actually really comes from the novel itself. But I knew a few things about the adaptation that I wanted to do. I wanted it to be presented in the style and period of the time, but I wanted to update it a bit. I thought it would be great to have some topical humor. I thought that for a reason. Dickens wrote about Scrooge being a morose, stingy, evil man. And I thought, well, that's kind of hard for an audience to identify with Scrooge. Nobody wants to identify or think of themselves as being like Scrooge. So I thought, well, let's make Scrooge delight in wrecking Christmas. Because there's a little bit of Scrooge in everybody around the holiday season. Because television tells us everything's supposed to be perfect. The turkey is perfect, the house is clean, we get along with all the relatives, there's no stress, and that is all a lie. It is a stressful time. And we do get a little Scrooge in us. So I thought, well, if I can get the audience to identify with Scrooge, then they'll come along with me and they will make the transformation along with Scrooge to become a better person. So that's the way we approached the entire show. I wanted Scrooge also to have a teddy bear in Act 2 when he goes to bed and he's visited by the ghosts. Because I thought the children in the audience would identify with him. He was just a big kid, and he had the teddy bear. He was afraid of the dark, just like kids are. And then there would be that moment in the show after Bob Cratchit sings the lullaby to Tiny Tim, and the ghost of Christmas Present has taken Scrooge into the Cratchit house to witness that scene. And Scrooge is beginning to change a little bit. I thought it would be very symbolic for Scrooge to put the teddy bear in bed with Tiny Tim, to give up his most cherished gift and to give it to Tiny Tim. One more thing I wanted to do was I didn't want the ghost of Christmas Future to be too scary. So we decided to make him a befuddled undertaker. And I've said to everybody who's played that role, you're playing death. And there's nothing funny about death, but we're going to do our best. So the befuddled undertaker who visits Scrooge, and he knows he has a pickup at that address, and he's trying to get Scrooge in the coffin, it seemed to be the way to go. Now, over the years, Christmas Future has changed an awful lot. We've had women play him, men play him, a lot of changes for Christmas Future. In fact, a few years ago, before Donald Trump became president, Christmas Future was Donald Trump. We predicted a presidency. And over the years, after 47 years, my goodness, there's so many stories associated with the show. And tonight I thought you might like to hear a few of them. When we opened the show in 1974, we actually had to sell the seat cushions off the sofas in the lobby to accommodate the crowds. And after a while, we were up to 17 performances at Theater in the Park, which seats 240 people. And we were exhausted. So we decided to move it down to Memorial Auditorium. Now, I hasten to add, when we moved it down to Memorial Auditorium in the late 70s, Memorial Auditorium wasn't used for anything other than wrestling matches and graduations. And Deanne Jones and I drove down because we wanted to see what that space was like. We met with the city manager, and to our surprise, we found out he couldn't find the key to open Memorial Auditorium. It was shut up, closed up, dark. Deanne Jones had a pair of bolt cutters in the trunk of her car. Don't ask, I don't know why. But we took those bolt cutters and cut the chain off of the door at Memorial Auditorium. And when we opened that door and the sunlight came into that dark space, a rat as big as a beagle dog ran across our path. But we walked in and I said, oh my God, this has to be used. And so we started by bringing original productions to Memorial Auditorium, we did The Three Musketeers. We did The Hunchback of Notre Dame. So it just seemed natural to move Christmas Carol into that space, which we did. And we thought, okay, this is going to be great. We'll play for a long weekend and play to as many people as we played to at Theater in the Park. Well, IBM decided to buy out 7 shows for its employees. And they would treat their employees to the performance of A Christmas Carol. So we had to add 7 shows to our run. And before we knew it, we were back up to the same number of performances we had done at Theater in the Park. And that's something that I feel, well, bittersweet this year. I have bittersweet feelings because obviously we're not doing the show. We're going to stream it, and I sit at home at night, and around about 6:30, 7 o'clock, I get very antsy because I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I should be doing something. We should be in rehearsal now. And yet, on the other side of the spectrum, I get to celebrate the holidays like I don't usually get to celebrate them. I get to build a fire in the fireplace. I get to snuggle up with my family on the sofa and read a good book together or watch a Christmas movie. I get to go to church services. I get to listen to music. These things that you normally do are things that I haven't been able to do for 47 years. So that does add to the pleasure of the holidays for me. Now, we opened the show and we're playing in Raleigh, and one day I heard some automobile tires squeal outside the theater. The door opened and this little lady walked in, elderly lady, white hair. She kicked the door of my office open, and I was sitting behind my desk. I stood up. She pointed her finger at me and she said, "You are coming to Columbia, South Carolina." I saluted and I said, "Yes, ma'am." And that's exactly what we did. Her name was Betty Duffy. Betty ran the Babcock Center in Columbia, South Carolina for mentally challenged people. They gave them homes to live in. They gave them jobs to do so they could be self-sustaining. It was an incredible organization. And we took the show to Columbia over Thanksgiving. We did that for 20 years. My kids never had Thanksgiving at home. We always had Thanksgiving at a hotel in Columbia, South Carolina. We had Thanksgiving dinner catered, brought up to the suite where my family and I stayed. And over the Thanksgiving holidays, people in the cast and our Christmas Carol family who didn't have family to spend the holiday with would leave Raleigh and come down to Columbia early. And they would check into the hotel and we'd all be together. On Thanksgiving morning, they'd show up at our suite with their bathrobes and pajamas on. We'd have amaretto coffee and watch the Macy's Day Parade. Then everybody would go back, dress for dinner, and we would have the most incredible Thanksgiving feast. And then the rest of the cast would arrive the next day, and we would play for the weekend in Columbia, South Carolina. And we did that for 20 years. Now, everybody knows too, I think, that we have toured the show to France and to England. And oh my goodness, that was an incredible experience in and of itself. We went to our sister cities in both countries. Raleigh has sister cities in France, England, Russia, all over Europe. So our sister city was Kingston upon Hull in England, and we toured the show there. We went over during the summer to scout things out, to meet everybody, and then we took the show. And that's costumes and scenery and drops, everything. Of course, in those days, I mean, the security wasn't what it is now. And but I'll tell you what, to schlep hundreds of costumes in cardboard, laundry boxes on shopping carts through customs to get everything into the theater in Kingston upon Hull was pretty amazing. It was an incredible time when we took the show over. We had one very memorable occasion, and that was one night in the second act when Jacob Marley is singing his song to Scrooge. He brings on these tap dancers, these girls, wonderful dancers, and they are tapping their hearts out. I'm on stage in my nightgown as Scrooge. I happen to glance out into the audience and notice that the house lights came up. I'm going, well, I guess our lighting guy has missed a cue. But then I noticed the doors on the side of the theater opened and ushers stepped in. So I knew something wasn't right. So I looked off into the wings, and my technical director was going, which means back up because the asbestos curtain is coming down. I didn't know what was going on. So I stepped forward, and I got the band to stop. God bless those tap dancing girls, though. They were not going to stop because they had rehearsed for this number. But they finally stopped. I didn't know what I was going to say, but I felt like I had to say something's going on and we need your patience. But before I could say anything, the head usher, who was down in front, stepped forward and he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I hate to stop the performance, but I need to tell you that the fire alarm has gone off. And so we're going to ask that you quietly and orderly please evacuate the theater." Well, if this had been an American audience, Lord only knows what would have happened. There would have been a stampede. But Kingston upon Hull had gone through World War II and had been bombed unmercifully by Germany. So they didn't blink an eye. They just laid their playbills down in their seats. They got up, put on their little mufflers, their coats, very orderly, walked out, walked across the street to the nearest pub, and ordered a pint of ale. Well, that year, thank goodness, we had rehearsed a fire drill. Don't know what possessed us to do it that year, but thank goodness that we did, because everybody knew exactly what to do. They left everything in the dressing room. They filed down orderly right through the door outside. I was standing in my nightgown. My technical director came up and said, "David, you need to get out." And I said, "No, I'm fine. I'm standing right here by the doorway. Let them see me. They know everything's okay. And when they're all out, I'll just follow them out." Well, as the cast was filing out, my tech crew was bringing me an overcoat or a scarf and another overcoat, and they just threw it over my nightgown, and I looked like Nanook of the North. When everybody filed out, my technical director, Tim Ruffin, said, "Okay, now you get out there." So I walked out on the landing right outside the door, and across the street were hundreds of people who had been in the audience with their pints of ale, and they toasted and they applauded, and I looked like the Pope with all of that stuff over my white nightgown, so I just started blessing them. And then I went across the street. I had a pint of ale with them. We weren't able to continue the show. What we found out was that it was just a faulty fire alarm. There was no fire, but it was too late to get everybody back in the theater. So the entire Christmas Carol cast had a wonderful evening with the audience members. We sang songs. We did some scenes from the show. It was just a marvelous evening. And after England, a few years later, we decided, or we were asked actually, by our sister city in France, Compiègne, if we would bring the show there. So once more, we went to Compiègne during the summer months to check things out before we took the show back over again around Thanksgiving. And it was very interesting. the two countries, England and France, of course, they don't celebrate Thanksgiving, but for us, they cooked Thanksgiving. They asked us, what do you have for Thanksgiving? Well, of course, we said turkey and dressing and cranberry sauce, and they did their best. And when we were asked to go to France, we met an incredible lady who was our cultural liaison, Michelle Le Chatelier, who was an amazing woman, and she made it all possible for us to go. And they sent a group of people over to visit us at Theater in the Park and to see a rehearsal of the show. And I told that group, I said, you know, we're honored, of course, to go to Compiègne. And I'm particularly honored because my uncle, Carroll Thomas Wood, died in Normandy during the invasion, and he's buried there in Normandy. And no one from my family has been able to visit. So I think I'll be the first family member to visit Uncle Carroll's grave. And Michelle said, do you know what cemetery? And I said, no, but I'll find out. So we went over, and as soon as we got there, Michelle said, have you found out where your uncle is buried? And I said, no, I'll check in with the embassy. I'm sure they'll have information. But we're here to do public relations work for you right now, interviews and things like that. So I'll get around to it. She took both of my hands in hers, and tears came into her eyes, and she said, no, David. He came to save us, and he died alone. You must go. I said, yes, ma'am, I will. The next morning, Michelle's neighbor came to the hotel where we were staying, put an index card in my hand, and it said, First Lieutenant Carroll Thomas Wood, St. Laurent-sur-Mer, Section C, Grave 29. I went, how did you find this? And he said, my father was in the French resistance. He found it. So we rented a car in Paris, and a few of us from the theater drove about 3 hours to Normandy and walked into that cemetery. I've visited it once or twice since then. And I weep every time I round the corner and begin to see the graves, because there are 10,000 graves in that cemetery. It's where they filmed the scene in Saving Private Ryan, where they visit the cemetery, and it's right there on Omaha Beach. I mean, you're overlooking the beach, and I've been fortunate enough to have traveled a lot in the world, but I have to say, there is no place I have visited that hit me like that place. You're on American soil when you go there, because it is America. Our boys are buried there. I stayed for about an hour and a half at Uncle Carroll's gravesite. I never met him, but when I left that day, I felt like I knew him. We got back to Compiègne, and after I had done a little research, I found out that had Uncle Carroll lived, he would have come through Compiègne. And so in November, when we came back to do the show, there's a point in the show at the end when Scrooge has to sing an a cappella version of the first Noel. And I got to step forward before I sang, and I got to say very softly, "This is for Lieutenant Carroll Thomas Wood." I felt like the circle had been completed. I made the trip. I got there. He didn't. but we were able to because of his sacrifice and the sacrifice of thousands. So that was a very, very special time. We always have event insurance for the production, and I have to have a physical. And thankfully, there's a doctor in the cast, Dr. Bob Harris, who always listens to my heart and checks me out. And that year, he came in, he was listening to my chest with a stethoscope, and he kept listening, and he kept listening. And he looked up at me and he said, "Do you have a heart murmur? You didn't have that last year. You might want to have this checked out." So I said, okay. That night after rehearsal, I was having dinner at my in-laws' house, and I told them what Dr. Bob had found. And my father-in-law said, "Well, I have a friend who's a heart specialist. With your permission, I'll call him and see if he can see you." Well, I said, okay, that would be great. Because I'm thinking, if he's a heart specialist, he's booked up solid. So I'll do A Christmas Carol. I'll slide in January and get this thing checked out, find out what's going on. Well, my father-in-law went, made the phone call, walked back into the dining room and said, "He'll see you in the morning at 8 o'clock. Well, I knew kind of right then my goose was cooked. I had had no symptoms other than when I stretched out in bed at night, I was short of breath. That's all. So my wife Ashley and I are sitting in the waiting room, and suddenly I feel this hand on my shoulder, and it's the heart specialist, and he comes around, Dr. Tiff Mann, and he says, "Good morning." And right away I loved him because he was a toucher. I love doctors that touch, you know. It's healing in a touch. And he said, "I'm sorry we have to meet under these circumstances, but come on in, let's do a sonogram, find out what's going on." I went in, had a sonogram going on. Dr. Mann's looking at the screen, and he calls in a second doctor. So I'm lying there going, this is not necessarily terrific. And they start talking very low. And the other doctor leaves. Dr. Mann says, "Put on your shirt and join me across the hall in my office." So I did. When I walked into the office, my wife was sitting at the table. Dr. Mann was sitting across from her, and there was an empty chair at the table. I sat down, and Ashley, my wife, reached right over and took my hand in hers. That is not a good sign. And Dr. Mann looked at me and said, "Do you have an understudy? Because you're not going on this year." And I think all the color drained out of my face. And he said, "You have serious heart issues. I want to get you in the operating room as soon as we can." So I said, "Yes, sir." I got back home and I called my son, Ira David IV, and I said, "Can you come by the house?" He did. And I was here in this room. He walked in the front door. I looked at him and I said, "Hello, Mr. Scrooge." And then the color went out of his face. And he said, "Are you serious?" And I said, "Ira, I'm as serious as a heart attack." So I told him, I said, "You got to do the show this year." So my daughter, Evan Rachel Wood, came in from California to be our eyes and ears out front. Ira moved into the house here with us. Every morning I would get up, walk out here around 7 o'clock. He would be in front of the television watching old videos of the show, learning my mannerisms, learning how I did it. And I went in that night and made the announcement to the cast that I would not be doing the show. And I was diagnosed on a Tuesday. By Friday, I was in the operating room. 8 hours on the table. They stop your heart. And you're kept alive by a heart-lung machine, which pumps the blood outside of your body. My goodness. My valve surgeon later told me, he said, you should have had a sign in your chest that said Sanford and Son because it was ready for the junk pile. They did some incredible surgery. And I was in the hospital after the surgery for less than a week. I went home, and I did ask them before I left, I said, what are my diet restrictions? And they said, your veins and arteries were fine. So if you want to stop by Colonel Sanders on the way home and get biscuits and gravy, be our guest. I said, you're on. But I didn't. I did get a cheeseburger. It was the best cheeseburger I had ever eaten in my life. You know, when you go through something like that, your life is totally different. That was 10 years ago in 2010. It's 2020 now. And I have to say that in all of those 10 years, I have not had a bad day. I've had difficult days. I lost my mom. That wasn't a good day. But it wasn't a bad day. And I found out that life was about celebrating the moment, living the moment, being in the moment. I also found that I cried a lot. I could look at a sunrise. I could look at my son sleeping. And I would weep. But they'd be tears of joy. And it gave me a new sense of dedication and love for the production. And when I walked back in and I got hugs from everybody, and in 2011 when I was able to go back on the boards and do that show, oh my goodness, it was a celebration. Ashley and I every year would go down to Sanibel, Florida. We love to collect seashells, and Sanibel, Florida is a great place to collect seashells. We arrived that year after my surgery and put our luggage down, and I looked at her and I said, are you ready? And she said, yeah. We took hands and we walked down to the beach. And I lost it. I stood there and cried in celebration. And I try to do that every day. Not cry, but just celebrate. Live in the moment. And that's why this year, in particular, this year of all the others, it's not about what we want to get for the holidays. It's celebrating and appreciating what we already have, that we take for granted often. And sometimes it takes a major incident to wake us up to the things that really matter in life. And so my heart surgery was a tremendous gift to me, and one that I keep learning from. Over the years, we've had so many people join the Christmas Carol family. And that's what we are. We are a family. We're not a cast. We're huggers too. We hug. And that's why I really miss it this year. I miss the hugs, you know. Over the years, thousands of people have become part of that family. And I'll let you in on a secret. It's a custom that we've established. And I invite you to join us and become part of it. Every Christmas Eve at 9 o'clock, wherever we are, whatever we're doing, the cast and crew of A Christmas Carol will step outside on the doorstep just for a minute or two in silence and join together as a family once more. Because there is something in the air on Christmas Eve that is indescribable. It is a magic. It is a reverence. It is something that goes inside of your soul. You should try it. Just step outside in silence. Look up at the stars. Breathe in that cold air. See the moon over the tree tops. And know that while you're doing that, thousands of others are doing the same thing. It's a very, very special time, a cherished time for all of us. I offer it to you. Hope you'll join us. And when you do join us, you'll be part of that family. And part of that family includes some rather talented people who've come through the doors of the theater and been part of our cast. Frankie Muniz, Malcolm in the Middle, was our Tiny Tim for a few years. Michael C. Hall was Peter Cratchit. My daughter, Evan Rachel Wood, Ghost of Christmas Past. My son, Ira, oh my goodness, he's played Tiny Tim, the Lamplighter, Ghost of Christmas Future, and Scrooge. I think he's played more roles than anybody else in the show. Lauren Kennedy. Oh goodness, there's so many who are still part of our family, still loved, still treasured members. So, yeah, it's been tough. We missed the family this year, but as I said, we have a lot of warm memories, and we're going to wrap those around us this year. Those of you who've seen the show know that there's a moment when Christmas Present takes Scrooge to the Cratchit house, and Scrooge gets to watch Bob Cratchit tuck Tiny Tim into the bed at night. It is for me a bittersweet moment, but one that I look forward to every year. My dad died when I was 12 years old, and that's something that changes your life forever. When we were putting the show together, I knew that I wanted to write a lullaby for Bob Cratchit to sing to Tiny Tim. I want it to be the words I never got to hear from my dad, but words that any parent would want to pass along to their son or daughter. I sat down one night to write that music, and my dad's picture was hanging on the wall in front of the piano, and I just started. One day, my son, when you are grown, you will remember all the happy times you and your dad have known. And on the day that you do, you'll know somehow I'm remembering too all my happy times with you. And I knew it was what I wanted. It touched my heart, and I knew it would touch other people's hearts. And every year, Scrooge, Christmas Present, Jacob Marley, we all sit on the bed in Scrooge's bedroom, and Tiny Tim's bedroom is on the side of the stage. And I always tell our lighting designer, please turn the lights out on me. I don't want the audience to see us sitting on the bed. I want all focus to be on Bob Cratchit singing that lullaby to Tiny Tim. And in that darkness, I have occasionally looked out into the audience. And what I have seen has been a gift to me. Once I looked out and saw 3 generations in a family. I saw grandfather, father, and son sitting together. The son, grandson was in the middle. Grandpa, Dad were on either side. When Bob Cratchit started to sing that song, I saw the grandfather reach out and put his arm around his son. And then I saw them both look down at the grandson, and they touched him. I lost it on stage. It was a gift to know that something that I missed, something that I couldn't have, maybe because of that song, I gave it to somebody else. The knowledge that we need to reach out in those moments when we are physically together and realize how incredible those moments are, and how temporary life is, and how we need to be aware of that so we don't spend time with those we love. We don't spend time to kill. We spend time to live. So I ask the company every year, the family members, I said, in the wings, for that song, Please Don't Move. And they don't. Everything is very still. And when I look and see Bob Cratchit sing to Tiny Tim, I relive the last time I saw my dad. And it was the same scene. He came in to tuck me in and kiss me goodnight. And I don't know whether he had an inkling of what was about to happen. But when he walked out of the room, as he went out, I said, Dad, if I get cold tonight, I'm going to come and get into bed with you and Mom. Of course, that was code words for if the monsters try to attack me. And I don't know why, but my dad stopped in the doorway. He was silhouetted in the doorway, and he turned and looked at me for what I felt was an inordinate amount of time, and he said, No, son, you won't. He walked out of that doorway and out of my life. He was ill the next morning, taken to the hospital. They discovered a brain tumor. He went through surgery and survived for about 9 days before he passed away. So the Christmas lullaby is a gift to myself. And though it's a bittersweet and not painless moment, it's one that I look forward to every single year. Well, that's about it. Thank you so much for letting me rattle on a little bit. I hope it's made a difference to you. I know this is going to be a strange holiday for us all, but think about this. We have a chance to come together, perhaps in ways we've never done before, and to be more appreciative of the time that we do have together. So I wish that for you. A happy Thanksgiving, a happy Christmas, and a blessed New Year. Thank you so much. Good night.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for Yuletide by the Seaside. Tonight I'm going to teach you how to make our signature cocktail, the Yuletide Martini. First, you're going to take a cocktail shaker and fill it up with ice. Then you're going to take 1 ounce of your choice of vodka, then 1 ounce of the creme de cacao, 1 ounce of half and half creamer, and also 1 ounce of Baileys. Once you have all your ingredients in the shaker, you're going to shake it for about 10 to 15 seconds. Before you pour it into your martini glass, I like to rim the glass with crushed peppermint to make it a little bit more seasonal. Thanks for joining us tonight for Yuletide by the Seaside. And cheers!
Hi there, I'm Conrad.
And I'm Adriana. We love to shag dance and know you'll love it too.
Follow along as we guide you through the basic movements in shag dancing.
The shag dance is a partner dance. Begin with your feet in the positions for either partner 1 or partner 2, being sure to face towards your partner.
If you don't have a partner, no worries. Choose one of the beginning stances on the floor, learn the shag dance, and you'll be ready to dance when the next partner wave comes rolling in. I'll be partner 1.
And I'll be partner 2.
Shag dancing is really quite simple. We start with the basics and elaborate from there. It's easy to count to. It goes 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6. Now say it with us. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6.
6 counts but 8 words. Each word represents a step. Follow along on this screen to see where your feet go for each count.
Now, partner ones, that's me. Our steps are the opposite of partner twos.
That sounds confusing, but it'll be clear soon. Let's begin.
We're gonna start with partner ones. All you need to remember right now is 6 counts and 8 steps.
Partner twos, be patient, your turn is coming.
We'll begin with our left foot and shift our weight every time we take a step. Front together, back, back in place, back, step. Front together, back, back in place, back, step. Front together, back, back in place, back, step. Great job, partner one. Now let's do it again. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6.
Terrific. Now it's our turn, all you partner twos. We're going to do exactly what they did, but opposite. Ready?
And we'll put it all together very soon.
We're going to start with our right foot. Remember to shift your weight with each step. We'll go front together, back, back in place, back, step. Front together, back, back in place, back, step. Front together, back, back in place, back, step. Partner twos, let's do it together again. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6.
Now we're ready to all do it together.
1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6.
Now I think they're ready for music.
Have fun shag dancing. Add turns and other moves to make it your own.
Just remember the basic step and you'll be shag dancing for life.
I love beats music every single day of my life. I love beats music, you know that I do. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I love beats music, that old beer drinking music, shagging kind of music like you hear at OD. I love beats music, I'm talking about music by the towns, the Clovers, the Catalina.
Good evening and happy holidays. My name is Stephen Lader, and I have the honor of serving this year as chairman of the Museum of History Associates. It's great to see you all tonight. Thank you for being here. In these challenging times, in fact, especially in these challenging times, the Associates has been working hard to promote our museum and its mission. We have, since the beginning of the pandemic, strengthened our online community and education outreach programs. We've had more than 122,000 total online engagements since March. So your membership is more critical now than ever before to our museum and our mission of supporting it. We'll be back next year raising money to support the museum. Frankly, this spring, that was not a given. The board took some hard decisions, ones that were not taken lightly, and our staff rose to the occasion in exemplary fashion. So to all of you, thank you. We are so grateful for your commitment. This evening's musical guests, Peter Lamb and the Wolves, have been playing together throughout North Carolina and surrounding states for over a decade. They're in their 4th year of performing for us, so enjoy these favorites and have a wonderful holiday season.
horse open sleigh. All the hills we go, laughing all the way. Bells on bobtail rings, making spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Yeah. Sleigh, o'er the hills we go, laughing all the way. Bells on bobtail ring, making spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Have a blue Christmas without you. I'll be so blue just thinking about you. Decorations of red on a green Christmas tree won't mean a thing, dear, if you're not here with me. And when those blue snowflakes start falling, that's when those blue memories start calling. You'll be doing alright with your Christmas of white. Whoa, 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 but I'll have a blue, blue Christmas. when those blue snowflakes start falling. That's when those blue memories start calling. You'll be doing alright in your Christmas of white, but I'll have a blue Christmas. Oh, I will have a blue Christmas. Two. Let's back. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, Mr. Santa, bring us some toys. Bring Merry Christmas to all girls and boys. And every night we will go to sleep singing. I dream about the presents you'll be bringing, Santa. Promise me, please. Give every reindeer a hug and a squeeze. I'll be good as can be. Mr. Santa, don't forget me. Come on, Will. Yuletide. Bring us some toys. Make Merry Christmas for all the girls and boys. And every night we will go to sleep singing and dream about the presents you'll be bringing. Oh, Mr. Santa, promise me please, give every reindeer a hug and a squeeze. Every good dance can be. Mr. Sandman, don't forget. Sandman, don't forget. Sandman, don't forget.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Cheers. Merry Christmas.
Well, I hope you enjoyed tonight's program. Wasn't Ira David Wood great? And that shag dancing, I can't shag like that, but I'm sure you can. Again, thank you for joining us for tonight's program. And let's not forget the museum shop. I know you're probably like me, waiting to the last minute to get that holiday shopping done, and there's a great member sale on from now through December the 7th at the museum shop. Again, on behalf of the staff and the North Carolina Museum of History Associates, we want to thank you for joining us tonight and hope that you and your family have a very happy holiday. As you can see behind me, we've decorated here at the museum. The staff has put a lot of effort in putting our holiday tree up, as well as all the other holiday decorations we have around the museum. So we hope during this holiday season you'll take a few minutes and come down and see us and see some of the great exhibits like that beach music exhibit. And have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season.